Today's business news with Cole Stangler. He's not going to scream like Hannah Waddingham there. He's going to tell us instead about concern growing over the fate of the developer Evergrande.
Yeah, that's right, Stuart. It's the world's most indebted developer, on the hook for more than $300 billion to creditors. Investors watching closely as Evergrande faces key deadlines this month, starting with an $80 million interest payment on Thursday before a $50 million payment the following week. By the looks of it, investors aren't feeling terribly confident. Evergrande shares have fallen nearly 15% today in Hong Kong, with fears growing over a potential default. Nick Rushworth has more about what's at stake.
The Chinese group Evergrande has been ever expanding, accumulating more than $300 billion in debt. Interest payments due this week and next have added to a catalogue of pressures for the group. There are fears its liabilities could spark broader risks to China's financial system and beyond.
Markets are continuing to really worry whether this turns into a bit of a global contagion effect. We know that China's banks and China's credit market is getting hit by this colossally big housing developing company. But will this spread into other parts of the world? I think this is the fear that's gripping the markets right now.
Protests have taken place in several cities across China in recent days, with investors demanding cash repayments from Evergrande. Analysts say it's possible Beijing could step in to rescue a company seen as too big to fail.
I do believe there's always a plan from the China government. As I said, they are just waiting out. They want to teach Evergrande or other developers a lessons that, if you don't listen or if you are overexpanding, then you might pay a price for that.
The Evergrande Group kicked off a process on Saturday to repay investors with discounted properties. It admitted last week that it is under tremendous pressure and may not be able to meet its liabilities.
Nick Rushworth there. Now, other than Hong Kong, most of the major Asian indexes are closed today for the holiday. But European markets, how are they faring to kick off the week?
Well, not very good, Stuart, actually. Largely thanks to this Federal Reserve meeting that's opening tomorrow. Investors anxious about the central bank's timetable for phasing out its massive bond purchasing program. As you can see there, the FTSE in London down around 0.9%, even steeper losses here on the CAC 40 and the DAX over in Frankfurt.
I love this next bit of news. The European Union is preparing new rules. This is to create a universal, about time to phone charger.
Yeah, this has actually been in the works for some time now, but French paper Les Echos reporting the Commission will introduce a directive to this effect on Thursday. It would require all mobile devices sold in the EU to offer at least a USB-C port and for chargers to work across platforms. The rules would likely have the biggest impact on Apple, whose iPhones today use what's known as a lightning cable. It's a charger developed by the US tech giant. The proposal would need approval from Parliament and member states. It could reportedly take effect as early as 2024.
We shall see. Now, next up, Europe's largest airline group hopes to raise more than €2 billion by offering new shares to investors.
That's right. The long-awaited move from Lufthansa will take effect on Wednesday and is expected to be completed by early October. Cash will be used to help pay back a massive government bailout. Last year, at the height of the crisis, Lufthansa received a €9 billion relief package from the state. While it's staved off bankruptcy, it's in the midst of a tough restructuring. Lufthansa has cut 30,000 jobs since the start of COVID.
Another Germany story. Going to elect a new chancellor, of course, in less than a week.
Yeah, and candidates faced off ahead of this election coming up this coming Sunday. Fending off conservative Armin Laschet, the center-left frontrunner Olaf Scholz defended his economic agenda, making the case to raise taxes and usher in a €12 minimum wage in Europe's largest economy. Take a listen.
Herr Laschet, das ist vielleicht der Unterschied zwischen Ihnen und mir. Ich mache das nicht, weil jetzt gerade Wahlkampf ist. Diese Forderung erhebe ich schon seit ein paar Jahren. Mir geht es um die Würde der Bürgerinnen und Bürger. Das ist allerdings, was uns vielleicht in dieser Frage unterscheidet. Wir wollen diejenigen, die sehr wenig Geld verdienen, ebenfalls entlasten. Und wir sind nur sehr seriös zu sagen, dass das dann bedeutet, dass jemand, der so viel verdient wie ich, als Bundesminister zum Beispiel, dann etwas mehr Steuern zahlen muss.
And finally from Cole, US auto safety regulators, they opened a new investigation into cars. Now, this is cars with potentially defective airbag inflators.
They're looking at some 30 million vehicles with airbag inflators made by the Japanese firm Takata. This investigation covers major automakers examining a range of models going back to 2001. Over the last decade, 100 million Takata airbag inflators have been recalled worldwide, many of those in the US. In rare cases, the inflators can send deadly metal fragments flying and have been deemed responsible for 28 deaths around the world. Now, despite the recall, Stuart, there are still millions of these inflators that haven't been accounted for. So this probe ultimately adding to the scrutiny that we're seeing over Takata.
Thanks very much, Cole. Cole Stangler there with Business here on France 24.